Lights, camera, action.
Well, hello and welcome back to the podcast.
Hello.
I am Jon.
I am Emily.
And this is Married to Movies. And this week, we are going to be tapping into our inner gamers, of which...
Was that a pun? Like tapping and tappers?
Ooh, it was not, but I like where your mind is at. You are very much in the right wheelhouse right now. But yes, we are tapping into our inner gamers, of which I am very much so a gamer. Emily is not so much
a gamer.
And that's okay.
But I still love the movie. I don't think you have to be a gamer to love this movie.
No, but if you are one, you love it even more.
That's probably true.
And so anyways, this week we are talking about Wreck-It Ralph, one of my favorite movies. And we'll dive into that even more because I just want to get into it right now. I want to get going. But anyways, I will contain myself. And I will remember to thank you guys for listening last week. If you listened to our episode covering the Batman, which, man, awesome episode. I love that movie. It's an awesome movie. If you didn't listen to it, go listen to it. It's right on par with Halloween. It takes place on Halloween. So go check that out. We had a lot of fun recording it. We had a lot of fun having a new guest in the studio, Cole. So thank you again, Cole, for being on the show. But this week, we're diving into Wreck-It Ralph, and I think we should just get going.
Alrighty. Well, Wreck-It Ralph, did you find in your research when it was released? Because I feel like it was released so much more recent, but it was not.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what year?
Yeah, it was 2012.
Okay. I was going to have you guess if you didn't know, because I just feel ancient when I saw that. I feel like
Really?
I was a lot older than 12 years old when this came out.
Yeah,
But-
I remember when this movie was marketed. I remember seeing the first commercial for it, like the first trailer. I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, that movie looks amazing, and I want to see it. I remember seeing the trailer because it was marketed with the Flo Rida song, Good Feeling. I'm pretty sure that's the song that, yes.
I don't
Yes,
remember.
it was marketed with that song, and I remember I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But that was like very much a popular song at the time. So anyways, I remember when this movie was first coming out. I guess I didn't really think I was, let's see, if it came out
14.
in 2012, I would have been 14. So I would have been an 8th grader, like 8th grade, freshman, depending on what time it came out. But yeah, I guess that tracks. That seems about right. So
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like it was more recent than that. But anyways, it was released on November 2nd of 2012. It was directed by Rich Moore, which I'll just move one of my fun facts to right now. Rich Moore he not only directed this movie, but he also voiced Zangief and Sour Bill. This is also starring the voices of John C. Reilly, Sarah Silverman, Jane Lynch, Jax McBrayer, and Alan Tudyk.
So I'm going to interject real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I think it's maybe less notable that Rich Moore voiced like some characters in this movie, and more notable at the fact that the same guy who voices Zangief voices Sour Bill. Like, I couldn't hardly believe that when you first told me that, that it was the same guy. It just happens to be the director, but like, they're not like super hard voices to do, but just like,
They're very different.
Yes, I never would have thought that when watching the movie that like, oh yeah, same guy does Sour Bill and Zangief.
Yeah, I actually just realized that the other night when we were watching the movie, and I love the end credit song, so we were letting it play, and I was just kind of reading as it was playing the end credits, and I had seen that, and I thought I didn't know that either. So
yeah. So, anyways, I just wanted to make note of that.
yes, this movie was distributed by Walt Disney Pictures. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 41 minutes. It's rated PG. Its budget was $165 million, and the box office total was $496 million. So they had quite the profit here.
Yes, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And it's well-deserved. I love this movie. I can't say enough good stuff about it.
It is very good. Okay, so I'll dive into some fun facts. I found some pretty good ones on this one. I really enjoyed researching this movie.
Good. I'm excited to hear them.
My first fact is that the main actors recorded their lines in the same room together, which is actually pretty uncommon for most animated films. And this led to lots of improvisation because of it. I did not find what lines were improvised, but I thought it was still cool.
I would guess a good amount, especially with the two main characters, Ralph and Vanellope, being voiced by comedians. I would have to imagine that the majority of their lines were improvised.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. My next one, I'm going to give you like a little history lesson.
All right.
So the bartender game, which I referenced earlier, is Tapper.
Yes.
It was it first came out in 1983, and it was actually very controversial. Gosh, I can't talk today. Controversial in real life. So Tapper featured a bartender serving mugs of Budweiser beer.
Yes,
and
the actual on the marquee, the original one, it had like Budweiser on it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to start nerding out, so keep going. I'm sorry.
You're fine. The game was intended for adults to play in real life bars, but it eventually made its way into like kid-friendly arcades, and parents were very upset at the content. So, because of this,
it was later changed to root beer Tapper.
Yes, you stole my thunder.
Yes.
You couldn't contain it.
Yes, I couldn't contain it. So both versions of the game existed, but they had to separate them because of pushback and legal mandates and so on and so forth. But I am a huge, I guess you could call me arcade nerd. I'm very much into gaming, but also like all aspects of gaming, especially retro gaming, because we have an arcade in our house. That's not necessarily something that Emily ever wanted to have going into adulthood or marriage or anything like that, but it was very much something that I wanted to have. And so Tapper is revered in the arcade community as one of the best games. It's twofold. One, it's a fun game, just straight up. It's a fun game. But two, it was surrounded by a lot of controversy, which then later made it a rare arcade game. Finding any of these in good condition is extremely uncommon, and if you do, they're extremely pricey. But they're maybe one of the coolest arcade cabinets I've ever seen. Just like stop the video, look up a arcade cabinet of Tappers. It has like gold chrome bars on it. It's really, really well done, which I think makes it super cool.
Yeah, so, I need to look it up too, because I actually haven't seen it either.
Yeah, there's a guy that I appreciate. He restores damaged or just old, aged arcade machines, arcade cabinets, and he got a Tappers and he restored it to its former glory, and it looks beautiful. I'll put a link in the description to it. It's a Starship Arcade. It is so cool. Just when he's done with it, it looks phenomenal.
So on that same note, the reason I wanted to kind of go into that is because the version that we see in Wreck-It Ralph combines both the old version and the new version, because the bartender character of the original is the one that we see, but they used the root beer of the later version.
Yes.
So my next fact is that early in production, it was kind of like planned to keep all of the characters in their original graphic quality. So like making Ralph look like the 8-bit character the entire time. This ended up being like they decided against it just because they felt like it made it harder to sympathize with Ralph, and they felt that making him the higher graphic quality, it made it easier to sympathize with him and make him more of a lovable character.
Yeah, I would say that I'm glad that they made that decision.
Me too.
However,
it would have been cool to see.
Yes, it would have been very cool to see. I very much appreciate retro graphics, just, pixelated character art, especially well done ones are so cool. Mm-hmm. So seeing that play out for that long of a period of time with like a story would be very cool. But I can 100% see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I guess on that note, I would say that I am very appreciative of the scene where they leave the bad guys anonymous meeting. Mm-hmm. And so they were all at the Pac-Man machine, and they leave there, and it kind of like the camera zooms out of the meeting and it shows you the actual screen of the Pac-Man cabinet. And you can see the characters leaving and going.
That scene is really cool.
Yes, it's super cool because it shows you them all in like 8-bit form. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. I think that looks great. And it
was a nice touch.
Yes, it was a very nice touch. It was tasteful, and I'm a sucker for that type of stuff.
All right, my next fact is that the DJ at Fix It Felix's 30th anniversary party.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's Skrillex.
Yes.
Which, like, for most people that, like, if you don't know Skrillex, like, he's, I would say, far past his prime at this point. But in this era, this time frame, like, he was huge. Mm-hmm. He was everywhere. This was when, shortly after dubstep emerged, and everybody was, like, enthralled with it because it was like, whoa, what is this? He was the guy. He was the dubstep guy. And so the fact that, like, he made it into this movie as an actual character, and he helped work on a song in the movie as well.
That was my next fun fact.
Yes, which I will not say what it was.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Well, he helped work on the song that plays during the when they're at Hero's Duty.
Right, the first battle.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. But anyways, yeah, like, I don't know. It's such a, like, cool and, I guess, quirky inclusion in the movie for him to be a character, and that he's at Fix It Felix Jr.'s party. Like, I love that. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my next one is that King Candy's voice and character design is modeled after Ed Wynn. If you don't know who that is, he played the voice of the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
And he also was Uncle Albert in Mary Poppins. If you've seen, have you seen Mary Poppins?
It's been a long time. Okay. But yes, I have.
He's a very lovable person, I think, or was. And I guess, like, I never made that connection. Like, King Candy does remind me of the Mad Hatter. I never really made the connection, like, oh, they're modeled kind of the same, and they're voiced by the same, or not voiced. I was gonna say
they're not voiced by the same person, but the same style.
His voice sounds very similar to the Mad Hatter's. Is what I meant to say.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I never made that connection until you just said it now. So that is cool. That's interesting. And also, like, I think it's hilarious that Edwin, like, is his chosen stage name. Mm-hmm. It's literally just Edwin broken into two. Mm-hmm. His real name is Isaiah Edwin Leopold, but yeah, I'm Edwin. I don't know. I think that's funny.
My next one is an Easter egg.
Okay.
So the high score of Wreck-It Ralph's game cabinet in the movie is 120,501.
Okay.
So it's 120501, which is also a nod to Walt Disney's birthday.
Oh, okay. December 5th, 1901. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Next is that in the beginning of the movie, when Ralph first comes into Felix's apartment, which I think you'll appreciate this fun fact.
Yes.
There's a waterfall sculpture in the apartment on the left side of the screen. And the speed, size, and pattern of the waterfall is a nod to the waterfall featured on the start screen in the classic NES game, The Legend of Zelda, the 1986 one.
Really? Mm-hmm. That is super cool. I didn't know that. That is awesome.
And then I think you'll also appreciate the second one. The guns used by the soldiers in Heroes Duty make the same sound effects as the laser weapons seen in the opening scene of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And also when King Candy opens the secret vault that contains the game's code,
yes,
the exact same sound effect of the Cyberdyne vault opening can be heard.
A lot of Terminator 2 references,
yes,
which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
We haven't covered that on here, have we?
No, we haven't.
I didn't think so.
And I also have the Terminator 2 arcade cabinet in our house.
It's true.
Which is super cool. So, Terminator 2, near and dear to my heart. I love that there are references to it in this movie. That just makes this movie all the better, as well as the Legend of Zelda reference. I love that. Zelda is one of my favorite games, so that's fantastic.
Yes. All right, my next one is that Rich Moore, obviously we know that Wreck-It Ralph was not like an actual video game
right
before this movie.
Correct.
So Rich Moore is the one who came up with that story, and he said that the reasoning for doing that instead of basing it on an existing video game or an existing video game character is because he said, this is a quote from him, he said, "There's so much mythology and baggage attached to pre-existing titles that I feel someone would be disappointed." And he said that this is a reason why so many video game adaptations fail, which I thought was very true. I appreciated that he decided to go a different route instead of taking because yes, it would have been cool if he took like a classic video game character, like, you know, people like you who love gaming would be like so excited about something like that, I'm sure. Yeah. But a lot of people's expectations would probably be high, and that would, you know, doom them to be let down.
Right.
So I thought it was
it adds an extra sense of responsibility. You need to handle it with care if you're going to do something like that. And so, yes, I think it was smart, and I think it was a good decision for them to go this route. I would push back and I guess argue against Rich Moore's point there as to why he believes that that's why so many video games have failed. It's not because of the fandom, because that's essentially what he's equating it to, is that, well, people spend X amount of hours playing this video game, which is very, like, his argument is sound. Like, there are people who log thousands of hours into one single video game, and I'm not exaggerating on that. So to say that, like, people's expectations and love for the characters are very deep is not an exaggeration. However, what I would argue is that for many at this point in time, because you have to remember in 2012, there weren't a whole lot of successful video game movies. This was actually viewed as the best quote unquote video game movie, but it wasn't based on an actual video game. So it was kind of one of those catch-22 things. Whereas in today's world, in 2024, there have been many successful video game movies and TV shows. The difference is that filmmakers were not handling the source material with care. They did not really care. It was just like, hey, this is a cash cow. We're going to take it. We're going to do our own thing, and people are going to like it because of the name. And that's just not the case. It's no different than making a comic book movie. If you make a movie about Spider-Man, and instead of having Spider-Man shoot webs and be in a red and blue suit, we're going to make him fly without reason and he's going to be in, I don't know, a bright green suit. Like, well, that's not Spider-Man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and there were a lot of instances like that in video game movies at that point. So I completely understand the argument that he's making, and I would say that it is valid, and I think the decision that they made was a good one. However, I don't know. I guess I have a bone to pick with the idea of that it's not necessarily the fandom's fault for caring about these things. It should be, if you're going to take on the challenge of making a movie or a show about something that's already established, then you need to respect what's already come beforehand. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I would agree.
Anyways, and I didn't mean to get us off track there.
No, you're good. I only had one more, and I might pronounce this wrong, so I apologize if I do. But in the like villain or bad guy like meeting thing,
bad guy Anon.
Thank you. One of the bad guys that was supposed to be there was Dr. Wily from Mega Man.
Yes, I was actually going to touch on that.
Oh, sorry.
Which is okay.
But he sadly got cut out. But
yes,
that was all that I had.
Nice. Okay, well, I have some production details. So, believe it or not, as we said before, this movie was released in 2012. However, the concept for Wreck-It Ralph originated at Disney in the late 1980s with the working title High Score. I could not believe that when I read that.
It's crazy.
The whole idea that, I mean, I guess it makes sense when you look back and you think about it, because arcades were, that's when the arcade boom was happening. 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Not really 70s, but they were kind of in there too. But anyways, that was kind of mind-boggling for me. So anyways, I thought that was really cool detail. Since then, it was redeveloped and reconsidered several times. In the 90s, it was given the working title Joe Jump. And in the mid-2000s, it was called Reboot Ralph. So it's been around the block a handful of times at Disney. During development, director Rich Moore felt strongly that if this is going to be a movie about video games, then it should include real video game characters. And I have to say, I could not agree more.
Yes.
I think it would be really silly to just have completely made up characters.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been received as well.
No, I don't think so either.
Because that's part of the big deal about this movie is the nostalgia and being able to see these are the video games I played when I was a kid. Here's this guy from this one, so. Right.
Yes. And I think that it works especially well in this movie that they're just able to exist here as counterparts, that they live in the same world as opposed to, I guess, anything else. But I really like that they chose to include that instead of just having a bunch of made up characters. I don't think it would have landed quite as well. Mm-hmm. So anyways, Disney decided to do just that, and they licensed video game characters. On-screen characters include Pac-Man and Clyde the Ghost from Pac-Man, Sonic the Hedgehog and Dr. Eggman from Sonic, Q*bert, Tapper the bartender, Bowser, Ken, Ryu, Zangief, M. Bison, all characters from Street Fighter. And this one is actually not a listed character, but Kano from Mortal Kombat is at the Villains Anonymous meeting. However, in the credits, they list him as Cyborg. And I believe that one of two things could have been the case. There's a lot of conjecture around it. So either one, they just didn't want to get the license for the character, which I find really unlikely because they got licensing from Nintendo, and Nintendo's top tier. They're the gold standard as far as they're going to be the most expensive license. They're going to be potentially the hardest to work with, which is also, I'm going to debunk that here in a second. But anyways, they're the most hardcore because they're the most successful. So I don't really buy into that theory as to why they didn't list him. But I mean, it's very clearly Kano from Mortal Kombat. If you look up the character of Kano, Mortal Kombat, and then look up Cyborg and Wreck-It Ralph, they are the same character. And actually, he performs his signature move
to the zombie guy,
to
right?
the zombie guy. He rips his heart out, which is his fatality move in Mortal Kombat. But anyways, so yes, it's very clearly the character, but they don't list him that way. And the alternative theory for that is that Disney wanted to distance themselves from Mortal Kombat because it has an M rating and the movie is rated PG. M being for 17 plus mature. So it's very possible that that was the reason, although, I also don't know because they had him rip Zombie's heart out, which is kind of graphic. But
right.
The zombie's heart was purple and it was quick. Who knows?
Couldn't tell you.
So anyways, those were all the on-screen characters that appeared that they got licensing for. Some characters that Disney got licenses for that didn't appear in the film include Mega Man and Dr. Wily from Mega Man. But then also Mario and Luigi were intended to be in the film. Disney did acquire the licensing for Mario and Luigi when they acquired the license for Bowser. And Nintendo actually wanted Mario and Luigi in the film. There were a lot of people that after the movie came out that they thought, oh, Disney couldn't afford the license for Mario and Luigi for such a small film, or they didn't want to work with Nintendo because they're just notoriously hard to work for. But that's actually not the case. Nintendo very much so wanted them in the film, and they asked specifically for them to be in the movie because if it's a game about, or if it's a movie about video games, these are the video game characters.
Right.
So they wanted them in there. But ultimately, director Rich Moore didn't feel like he had a natural place for them to fit into the movie. So he decided against it.
Yes. I read that too. I thought it was very interesting.
Yes.
I am curious to know, I don't know that you would have found this, like how much money was spent on all of these licensing deals.
Oh, I'm sure it was a bunch.
Yeah.
But the movie made a bunch of money. So
right.
It
all had a
works
very
out.
large budget too. So I'm sure
Yes.
a lot of that was because of the licensing.
Oh, for sure. I just got two more here. The film introduced Disney's new bidirectional reflectance distribution function, which is some technical terminology for basically a new way that they were able to render animation to be more realistic with its reflections on surfaces. And they also rolled out a new virtual cinematography camera capture system, which made it possible to go through scenes that were rendered in real time. So that's probably not going to land with a lot of people, but if you enjoy nerdy film details like production type stuff, like me, there you go. I thought that was pretty cool. And then last but not least, when the animation crew was tasked with working on the Sugar Rush parts of the film, whenever the characters were in that game, they needed some good references because giant things made of candy is not something that we really see in our real life. So what they did is they went and toured a See's Candy Factory, and that is the name of it, SEES, See's Candy Factory, which I had never heard of, but evidently they are a massive producer of candy. So they went there, checked it out, and they also hired food photographers that were there to help them learn different techniques on how to make food look more appealing.
Interesting.
Yes. And that is all the details that I had.
All right. Well, I'm very interested to hear because you said this is one of your favorite movies.
Yes.
What would you rate this movie?
This is a hard one, but I'm just going to give it a 95.
Okay.
So it's a good, solid, round number. This movie, I love this movie. I want to give it a higher rating. I don't really know why I'm not, other than I feel like when we talk about films on the podcast, generally speaking, we talk about movies that we like.
Right. We've not covered one yet that we didn't enjoy.
Right. And there are definitely some that are lower on the scale. Mm-hmm. We've given out ratings in the 80s and I think some 70s. In the 70s before too. So, I guess what I'm getting at is that the majority of our films live in the 90s because we like them, as far as my ratings go. And I'm very aware of that. So when I rate this, this is not Interstellar. This is not The Batman. This is not Captain America Winter Soldier. All of those movies are top shelf for me. And this is a phenomenal movie too. And it's one of my favorites. But I guess I just feel like I need to have a little distance between this movie and those movies. Okay. So that is the reasoning behind my 95, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And how would you rate it?
I am going to go with, also in the 90s, not quite as high as yours. I'm going to give this one a 93, I think.
Okay.
Pretty much for all the same reasons that you just listed off. It is truly an amazing movie. Probably one of the best Disney movies, if I had to.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not going to repeat everything else that you just said, but yeah, for similar reasons. So, do you want to dive into some of your favorite scenes?
I want to hear some of yours.
Okay. So I have a few listed out. I'm sure more will come to me because I don't really have many complaints at all about this movie. I could probably list the majority of the scenes as my favorite. This is not a scene, but I love the humor in this movie. Like a lot of kids movies I just struggle with because I just really don't like cheesy stuff. And I sometimes just, I'm not like a boring person, I don't think.
No, you're not.
I feel like I have a relatively good sense of humor, but I just don't. It takes a lot for me to actually laugh out loud at movies or shows. You and I'll be watching whatever. You usually laugh out loud a lot more than I do, I would say. But this movie, I laugh a lot.
Yes.
The writing is great, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with whatever was improvised by the people who were, recording their lines together.
Yes.
But I just think it's a hilarious movie. And this is one way that I can know that a movie is truly funny is if my dad thinks it's funny, because it takes a lot for him to laugh at anything. And so, but this is one that he really enjoys too. So this movie is a really, it's one that's close to my heart just because of that, because my dad and I have very different tastes, but this is one of the few movies that he and I can sit down and watch together and both enjoy it.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I'll go ahead and go into my favorite scenes now. So first, I love the whole sequence where Vanellope and Ralph are making her car together. I think that's a really fun one. It's a nice change of pace from, I like how it's like a mini game? Mini game. Yeah, I really like that. I did read somewhere where it was gonna be something like, it wasn't all gonna be in one mini game. They had to go all over the whatever place to build her car. They were gonna have to go to a dance club to get the wheels and have a dance off with a Lady Gaga-esque character. Okay. And then there was another mini game or bonus level that they were gonna have to get like the engine, and it was gonna be, I think it was like a candy corn one, and King Candy had like released this like evil unicorn or something to go after them.
Oh wow.
It was like this whole thing. I should have included it in my fun facts, but yeah. So I like that they didn't do that.
Yes.
I thought it was very cool to just see the whole mini game sequence there.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that it's really enjoyable, especially because mini games are a part of a lot of games. Not every game, but a lot of video games have mini games in there. So it was a fun little nod to that in general.
Yeah.
And then additionally, just like it's a fun sequence.
Yeah.
Like it really does. It feels very true to the nature of real mini games, where sometimes the mini game is so engaging that it can kind of like you feel like you're doing your own thing.
Right.
Like it takes you out of the actual game that you're playing. And that's kind of what this scene feels like. I feel like it kind of encapsulates that whole feeling of like it's stepping away from the movie and it's just Ralph and Vanellope making a cart.
Right.
Like you're very invested in that moment. I feel like it's done very well and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I also love any of the scenes that like play into the romance between Fix-It Felix and Calhoun. Is that her name?
Yes.
I think it's just so funny, and I like that other storyline throughout.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. I think that just the weird dynamic between them. Like they're so different, but like you would never guess that at the beginning of the movie when you're introduced to both characters that they were going to be a couple.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that they end up together is fantastic. The fact that they have to like adventure around together is hilarious. Yes, I agree 1,000%.
Yes. Another scene that I really like is when Ralph is like at the end of the movie when they have the what's it called? Like the Diet Coke. What's it called? Diet Coke Springs, or I don't know.
Yeah.
With the Mentos.
Diet Cola Hot Springs.
That's what it is.
I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. So at the end of the movie when he's trying to get all those Mentos to fall and King Candy has like had him up in the air, and then he like Ralph breaks free and is falling, and he's reciting like what would you call that? Like
the bad guy's creed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would call it.
I really like that scene too. It's so heartfelt and like I love it.
That scene makes me cry.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, not, I'm not like sobbing, but it's just like
John's over there weeping on the couch.
No, it's just heartfelt, just like you said, like it's written well and it serves the story extremely well. There's a great payoff. John C. Reilly's voice acting for Ralph is fantastic. All the emotion comes through. It's just great. Man, that's a good scene. And I love it so much because it's kind of the antithesis of the whole film, right?
Right.
I think I'm using that word correctly. Just the idea that like the whole premise for the movie is that you have the character of Ralph, who's the bad guy, and it starts off very, very early in the film that like, hey, maybe I don't want to be the bad guy. And he's not coming at it from an aspect of what everybody's knee-jerk reaction is, that like, oh, you're not going turbo, are you? Like, he doesn't want to leave his game, and he doesn't want to like not be the character that he was created to be for the game or anything like that.
He just wants to be included.
He just wants to be treated nicely.
Yeah.
He wants to be included. He doesn't like want to live in a dump.
Right.
He doesn't want to like all the citizens in quote unquote Niceville are so mean to him, especially Gene. Gene's a little stinker.
That scumbag.
That guy, yeah, the little 8-bit chubby jerk is what he is. That guy, he's so mean. But yeah, that like everybody just assumes they know what he's talking about because of the history with Turbo, and all that stuff. But that's not what he means. And so he goes on this whole journey to prove to other people that like, hey, like I'm a bad guy, and you said a bad guy can't get a medal. I can get a medal because I am a good guy. And so then by the end of the movie, he comes to the point of acceptance of like, okay, like I have a better understanding of who I am, and I'm okay that this is the person I am. Mm-hmm. But just because like this is my title, this is my role of bad guy, that doesn't mean that like I fit into this one-dimensional box that
Right.
like I can't help other people out. I can't do what's right. I can't be kind. And so that's exactly what he does after a lot of heartfelt moments and growing sequences between him and mostly Vanellope, but even him and Felix too, and the Nicelanders. And I mean, I just, what comes to mind when I watch that scene is the reference which says, no greater love is there than this, that you lay down your life for a brother. Mm-hmm. Like that, what is that scripture reference? Hold on. Okay, I was going to say John, which is what I thought, but John 15:13 is what says that. And so the whole idea that like Ralph is a good guy, and he's doing exactly what a good guy does. He's sacrificing his own life to help other people, to save their lives. And I just, the whole like reciting the creed right there is a super powerful moment. And you could like kind of go down a lot of different rabbit trails with the message or meaning of the movie as a whole, but really what it is just, be kind to other people. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to be who you are, like
Right.
who you were created to be, but that doesn't mean that like you can't like go outside of the box to I guess not be defined by other people. You know what I mean? They were all operating on assumption. They assumed that he was talking about this one thing, but he wasn't actually referring to that. He just wanted to be treated with empathy and care.
Right.
But anyways, so.
Yeah. And my last one that I was going to touch on is another one that I think makes you cry. At least when I looked over at you while we were watching that, you had some tears in your eyes.
Yes.
When Ralph at the end of the movie is being lifted up by the what does he call them?
The Nicelanders.
Nicelanders.
Yes.
And sees Vanellope, and like she just won a race and she's like waving at him, and like that's a really sweet scene too.
Yes, it is. It's very heartfelt. It's very sweet.
Because it's like when Ralph is summarizing, like
yes,
yeah.
He's basically narrating a close to the film, and he's talking about all this stuff that's good. He's like talking about how, hey, I love my job. Mm-hmm. I love these people. Just because I'm the villain in this game, like, doesn't mean that I don't get to love where I'm at. I don't get to love the people that I'm around. I don't get to love what I do. And I do love that. And the best part of it is that not only do the kids in the arcade love us now, because they have all these retro characters and all this stuff, like that's really cool. But better than that is that we were able to help these retro characters and make like homes for them. And I have my own home, and we're being included in all this stuff. That's all good. But the best part is that at the end of the day, the Nicelanders lift me up, and I can see just through the arcade cabinet window to where Sugar Rush is, and he gets to see Vanellope, and that the kids love her, glitch and all, is essentially what he says. And that, yes, you're right. That scene did make me cry. Just because specifically he says the line, and I had to pull this up because I was going to talk about it if you didn't bring it up. The line that he says, it turns out I don't need a medal to tell me I'm a good guy, because if that little kid likes me, how bad can I be? That scene, or that line, that quote, all of it, that just, I don't know. That hits me like a ton of bricks. Not because I inherently believe that I'm a bad guy or anything like that. Like, it doesn't resonate with me on a personal level, but in that sense, but in the sense that, like, hey, if that kid loves me, how bad can I be? I just love that whole premise, that idea, that mindset, I guess, because when I look at the love that's on display in the movie that Ralph has for Vanellope, it just blesses me. It warms my heart because all I think about is our nieces and nephews. And we've got a lot of them. They're all on my side of the family, actually. You have 0 on your side.
Right.
But all of my brothers and sisters' kids, we've got over 15 at this point. And they're all so special. And I love them so much. And it just, the love that I see that Ralph has for Vanellope is very much the same love that, like, that's what I feel in that moment, that, like, if that kid loves me, then, like,
that's all I need.
That's all I need. I'm good. And that's how I feel. If any of my nieces and nephews are listening, any of our nieces and nephews are listening, which I know some of you do. So, hi.
We love you.
But yes, we love you. Uncle John loves you so much. And Aunt Emily loves you so much. And we're just so thankful for you guys. So anyways, that's kind of why I was tearing up in that scene, that whole idea, just because it's such a genuine, such a sincere and real love. That's why I love that moment.
Well, that's all I got for my favorite scenes. Did you want to touch on any others besides those?
It's tough because we've talked about a lot of them. I think I really love the whole sequence where they're in the Diet Cola Springs mountain hideout thing where Vanellope lives. I love the moment when they're kind of talking and Ralph realizes that, like, she knows exactly what his life is like because she lives it every day too. She's an outcast to society. Everybody's mean to her. I love that kind of story trope or whatever you want to call it, that story device that they used in the film. It's fantastic. It pays off super well. But then after that, when he's like, okay, and then he goes and punches the ground like crazy. He's like, if you're going to race, you need a track. You got to learn how to drive. And then he just, like, fully commits and takes her under his wing and is like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do it together. And then I think, too, why this movie is so good is because it breaks your heart. The scene shortly thereafter where King Candy lies to Ralph.
To this day, I cannot watch that scene. Like, when King Candy's explaining everything, I can watch it. But when Ralph is destroying her car,
yes,
like, obviously I know that his intentions are to protect her, but I just, like, the other night when we were watching it, I just, like, went to the bathroom or something.
Yeah.
Because I just, like, it wrecks me. I can't watch it.
Oh, it's devastating. And that's why the movie's so good. Because the filmmakers did such a fantastic job of getting you invested in this relationship between Vanellope and Ralph. It's such a good, true, sincere relationship. It's fantastic. And then you're just crushed. Because, like you said, Ralph believes he's doing it for a good reason.
Right.
That he's trying to protect her. And he was lied to and manipulated by King Candy. But that's just gut-wrenching. Like, Vanellope is destroyed. And it is very brutal to watch. So I think they did a phenomenal job of building the relationship, and they did a phenomenal job of breaking our hearts in that moment, as well as other moments too. But that whole kind of sequence of events is really strong, really good one. I also think it's really funny, just a small moment, but when Ralph grabs Sour Bill and throws him in his mouth, like it's very minimal and, like, it's not even a notable scene, but it's funny. And he like sticks the guy to he sticks Sour Bill to like the piece of candy. He's like, stick around, and he's like, okay, I will. Like, I don't know. It's just funny to me. I think it's funny when King Candy's like, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you?
That's a good
He
one.
grabs the glasses and smashes it on him. You hit a guy with glasses. That's clever. I guess on that note, like, Alan Tudyk is fantastic. He's so good as King Candy. And if you are not familiar with Alan Tudyk, he is such a phenomenal actor. Everything I've ever seen him in is fantastic. I love his work. He's so funny. He's so good at what he does. If you've ever seen Andor, the Star Wars TV show, he's the voice of K2SO, the robot. He's also in Star Wars Rogue One. Or if you've seen one of my favorite classic movies, A Knight's Tale, Heath Ledger. Alan Tudyk is Heath Ledger's friend in that movie. So he's fantastic. I love him. I've never seen him in anything that's bad. So kudos to him because he did a phenomenal job as King Candy here. Very, very convincing villain. And just his voice acting. His voice acting is on par. It's very, very good. Or on point, I guess I should say. Trying to think of anything other than that. I think the hero's duty sequence is awesome. It's hilarious. It's also like, it's a really strong contrast to kind of how the video game industry has changed so much.
Yeah, for sure.
And Ralph being like a 1980s-ish arcade video game character.
Yeah, I did appreciate that they not only took like the classics, but they also pivoted to like the more modern day ones too.
Right. And so like, I love that a character like Ralph, who's a 1980s-ish arcade character, is thrown into like a modern 2000s and onward first-person shooter like Heroes Duty. So, that's like your Halo, your Call of Duty. It kind of visually looks like Gears of War a little bit. So he's thrown into that. He's like, when did video games get so violent? And he's freaking out and everything. I just love that. It's great when you really like kind of step back and think about how video games have changed from Donkey Kong, like a little plumber trying to rescue a princess with a 8-bit gorilla throwing barrels at you, as opposed to today. I mean, there are whole virtual worlds out there that are just absolutely massive. So they've progressed a lot, and I think that was a nice way to touch on it. And then too, you have like Sugar Rush, that's your Mario Kart, and other kart-based racers. But anyways, yes, the Hero's Duty sequence is hilarious. I think it was really clever as a plot point, just how you have all these in-game characters that are soldiers, but then you have like this robot, and that's the player.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, that's like really smart,
right,
and really clever to have that play out in that way, like on screen. That makes perfect sense. So I thought that was really cool. Trying to think of what else. I mean, it was just really funny when Ralph was in there and freaking out. But other than that, I mean, I guess I could probably talk about the whole movie. I'm not really sure at the moment. There's just so much good stuff.
Good.
So much good stuff. I will say, I remember the first time I watched this, because I saw this movie in theaters when it came out. When King Candy turns into a big bug, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh,
it's a little creepy.
It's a little creepy. Like it definitely is. I remember thinking that, and I also think it's hilarious when, after the initial kind of shock of the freakish creature that he now is, once you get past that, it's really funny when the Diet Cola mountain is exploding.
It's got the beacon.
Yeah, it's like a beacon, and he can't resist flying into it. He's like, no, what are you doing? He's like, oh, it's so good. Like, he's like going back and forth. I thought that was really funny and clever too.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, well, I could keep going, but I probably better stop. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking of things at this point as they come to me. So,
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for listening. It was a lot of fun to delve into one of our favorite Disney movies with you.
Yes, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you very much, and your support goes a long ways, so thank you. It's been a lot of fun talking about something that is near and dear to my heart just because I'm such a big gamer. Actually, that is something I wanted to talk about here. At this point, the momentum of the episode has kind of slowed, but I still want to do it. Being that I love video games so much, just for viewers' enjoyment, so you can get to know Jon a little bit better. Emily, what would you say my top 3 favorite video game franchises are?
Halo.
Yes.
Zelda.
Yes.
Is it one that, like, I'm gonna be kicking myself for?
Maybe.
Samus? Is that how you say it?
That's the character. That's the character. Yes, Metroid.
Metroid.
Yeah, so Halo, Zelda, and Metroid are probably my 3 favorite video game franchises. But as we stated earlier, we have an arcade in our house. What would you say my favorite arcade game is?
Galaga?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Galaga is my favorite. I would say Q*bert is probably right up there too. I love Q*bert. And your favorite arcade game is Donkey Kong, right?
Yeah, probably.
What else would it be?
I don't know.
Okay. I was going to say, I'd be really surprised. Yes, Emily actually, when we went to a Donkey Kong, or not Donkey, when we went to an arcade and there was a Donkey Kong cabinet there, she actually got on the leaderboard there within, I don't know, 30 minutes of being there. Mm-hmm. You were on their high scoreboard. And this is like a well-established arcade.
I'm sure it was probably just luck.
No, you are good at Donkey Kong, and it is a travesty that we do not yet have a Donkey Kong machine in our house. But anyways, sorry, I kind of wish I would have done those things sooner, but we got them in here.
Yes.
So thank you guys for listening. It's been a lot of fun. Come back and join us next week. We're going to be talking about a movie that is new to us. We have not seen it. We always like doing those types of movies. But we're going to be talking about The Fugitive.
Yes.
Starring Harrison Ford. We've been told that it's a very, very good movie. We're excited about it. If you want to watch it beforehand, unfortunately, it is not currently streaming on any streaming services right now. So you will have to rent it. But if you want to watch it beforehand, you can rent it most anywhere. Amazon Prime, Google Play, YouTube, so on and so forth. So you can look forward to that next week. And with that, I hope you guys have a great week.
Yes, we'll see you next time.
Bye.